Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie I'm reviewing today. On June 17th, I watched The Devil's Own, which came out in 1997. Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford share the majority of the workload here, in a story about an IRA terrorist, Rory Devaney, played by Pitt, hiding out in the home of an NYPD sergeant, Tom O'Mara, played by Ford. It's never well explained why this criminal would choose to live with a cop, but the judge, who seems to be a sympathizer, and who ultimately signs the order making it so, seems to think it would be a good idea. So I guess we should just go along with it. It does make for some easy tension to build between the cop and the tenant living in his basement that he doesn't even realize is actually a criminal. And honestly, Harrison Ford does a better job portraying a conflicted cop than a lot of the other cheesier performances I've seen from him. In fact, it's easily one of the best performances I've seen from him. But he's still not a very good actor in my opinion, so take that with a hefty dose of salt. There's some really great stuff at the center of this one, about dirty cops, and that classic debate of whether the ends can ever justify the means. But it's mostly limited to the secondary story, since the primary story is always centered around Pitt's character, Rory. There's an obvious effort in this movie to sell the IRA as freedom fighters fighting against the oppressive British regime. And I just know so very little about the whole story that I wish this movie would have presented both sides more objectively. There was basically no backstory given, so even some kind of basic narration or a bit of text at the start would have been a nice, easy way to provide some greater, more accurate context to it all. Otherwise, as it was, I really had no reason to believe Rory was truly a hero or a villain, so it's all sort of a wash. It's not for lack of acting talent either, with Brad Pitt still easily being one of my all-time favorite actors. But his character here never amounted to anything more than a tired Irish cliché. So in a weird way, it only helped to highlight Harrison Ford's above-average performance. The other surprisingly good acting came from Ruben Blades, as Edwin Diaz, Ford's partner, and the officer involved in the more interesting subplot I mentioned. He's definitely not an actor I know by name, and I probably won't remember it after doing this recording. But it's a cool thing about movies in general when a guy like that you've never heard of can come out of nowhere with a performance like this, because that character might not have worked as well with a more recognizable name. So his performance really was crucial. He brought a lot to the role and definitely helped save this one, because I still have to judge it primarily by that confusingly contrived main story that really went nowhere and left me wanting more in terms of both education and entertainment value, which is really what any good political drama should be shooting for. We're even told outright to expect a sad Irish ending, but even with that warning, it still felt nowhere near as tragic as it could have been, and probably should have been thanks to that build-up. I honestly think there were sadder moments in the middle of the story than the ending itself, so it really didn't live up to its promise. I just think if you're going to make a movie about such an instantly controversial issue like the IRA, it needs to actually educate the audience, at least to some degree, about both sides of the issue. And this movie's biggest flaw is in making zero effort to do that. Carried mostly by the solid B story and some unexpectedly good acting, The Devil's Own just didn't have a good enough main story to call it a great movie. But still, with decent enough directing, it's always plenty watchable. So I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10, and it landed at number 997 on my list, putting it right here, in between 1998's Godzilla and Death to Smoochy. And as always, thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week. And if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.